Welcome to A Photographer's Life, the channel that takes you behind the curtain into the world of professional architectural photography. Join us now for an episode with some of America's premier architectural photographers. Today's broadcast comes from a recent Zoom meeting of the Association of Independent Architectural Photographers. This discussion is led by AIAP Director Alan Blakely. We hope you enjoy the show. If you do, please let us know by liking this episode and subscribing to this channel. Now, on with the show.
Big revelation to me when I first started using attorneys was them saying, well, let's cross this out and then let's add this. And so the first time I sat down with an attorney and went over a contract, and he was just cross out, no, we'll cross this out. And then adding an additional paragraph into a contract, and to find out that, yeah, it was accepted. That was just kind of startling to me. So all those contracts are, they're not set in stone. Yeah, they're negotiable. And I adjust those all the time. And just did one this week where it was a fairly dramatic adjustment from what they were asking for. And nobody was offended by it, least of all my client. And so I think that's a good approach.
Yeah, and I also think that we live in a text and email world, and it's so impersonal. I think a phone call to your client, Norman, and say, look, I really want you to participate and win some awards, but why don't we consider making it not everything under the sun and just have a conversation about it? Because you're going to build that studio and hire an architect and then give those plans to your brother in California to build the same studio. They can kind of relate to the design aspect and that it's not just transferable. So I try and put it in their realm of sensitivity on the creative process, and how that there is additional licensing down the road, and you're happy to do it for free because you want to see them win awards. But for them to just grab it now and have it for everything under the sun, no time limit, that's crazy, and nobody should have to agree to that, and they should certainly be able to. But again, I think it starts with a phone call, and then you back it up with the paperwork on the email or whatever.
Most of you probably noticed that we kind of open it up on the front end and the back end, based on some conversations I've had with members who wanted to have kind of a little bit of open conversation time on the front end, maybe, and in the back end, aside from the formal meeting. So, we'll be doing these with 30-minute, chat time, if you want to call it that, before the meeting starts, and then leave it open for 30 minutes, and whoever's here can close the door when it's over with. And I don't care how long that goes, but I'll end the recording at the appropriate time for the meeting, and then just leave the meeting open for whoever wants to stay and talk, because I think there might be some valuable information exchange. So let's go ahead and plan to do that going forward. We had some good conversation already this morning before we started here, so this has been valuable. But the meeting that we're formally starting right now is with our 2024 marketing review, and wanting to talk about marketing efforts here in the year of 2024, and what's changed and what's working and what may not be working and what needs to be adjusted. And I'm kind of wanting to open it up to conversations with you as to your feelings about this. I just want to start with, just from a personal standpoint, that I'm buried right now, and I'm hoping that most of you are as well. And from what I hear, most of you are. But for those of you that aren't, let's see what we can figure out to make that happen for you. So with that, let's open it up and just kind of talk about the kinds of things that some of you have been doing, or all of you that have been working and been successful here this new year.
I've been on LinkedIn for decade or more, whenever it came out. Never did anything with it. And I kind of got kicked in the butt by my partner to start posting something. And so I have for the last couple of weeks, and my website traffic has been through the roof. I actually ended up getting 2 new clients, and I've had a lot of looks and a lot of inquiries from a format that I never really gave much consideration to. So, you know, that's the only thing I've done different this year. We were busy anyway. Now we're busier, so I recommend doing that. I'm really surprised at it.
I would have to second that wholeheartedly, because LinkedIn is the only social media platform that I give any attention to. And that it's been that way for the last 5 years, really. And that was kind of on the recommendation of some people who I respect, that I know that do digital media promotion for companies on a large scale. And they were talking about LinkedIn before I was really aware of what it really was and what it could do. And so that's all I've done for the last 5 years. That's where the bulk of my marketing effort has been. I also send out a quarterly email to clients and potential clients, and that's it. Facebook, Instagram, all those other social media platforms. For me, I don't spend any time at all with that. So LinkedIn is the one that seems to be the one that's productive for the niche that we're in.
I was surprised that I got a job recently from LinkedIn, and I'm curious as to how you guys post. Typically, what I'm doing is I put up a building that I just shot that I really like. I like my work on it, and I'll put it up and I'll say, I was just recently blessed to be assigned or receive this assignment to do such and such a building. If you haven't seen it, you really ought to go look at it. It was done by XYZ architects and built by, this GC. And I get a fair amount of looks or impressions anyway from that.
I don't do things much differently. I blog quite a bit, and we have a lot of activity on our blog. It's well read. And so I have hundreds of blog posts, and I've just been actually just reposting them on LinkedIn. I changed the language a little bit. So it's been easy for me because it's already done, but that's all I've been doing. And then some recent projects, I did post a few recent projects and had my clients go, "Oh, not yet, not yet. I haven't revealed it yet." So I thought, well, okay, I'll start posting some older stuff, but I'm really impressed with it, because I never gave it a second thought. Ellen had a post a couple of weeks ago, and Mary, she said, "You got to go on LinkedIn and look at Alan's post." And she said, "We need to start doing that." I'm like, yeah. And so we did, and I can't believe the difference.
Yeah, typically, like Glenn was saying, I try to do a little research on the project, and even though I may only have one contact on a project, the person that hired me, I'll do a little research to find out who the team was, the developer, the build team, design, architect, developer, property manager, the interior design, anybody that has a stake in, who might want to license the photography per se, or who might want to repost this. And so I will tag them. I will put them in there, and then in LinkedIn you can, you highlight as you're creating the post. You highlight that person or that name of that company, and then that creates a tag that is clickable back to them. It's a hyperlink, and then I also try to use not more than about 5 hashtags in there that are appropriate. And I use a hashtag generator that creates hashtags that are most popular hashtags depending on a certain subject. And what I find is that I get a lot of reposts and likes and then connections from companies that are involved in a project that I would never have connected with otherwise. And And then after that, then they end up licensing the photography that they may not have even known was done. And this happened to me recently on a project where my original fee on the project was, just for sake of example, say $1,000. The licensing on that ended up being about 20 times that after the fact, just because of the people that I had tagged who contacted me after the fact to license the photography. And then they reposted it. And so it generated a lot of awareness for me that I didn't have to pay for or do anything to really achieve. And that was all just LinkedIn.
I have a LinkedIn question for, are you all, everybody here on LinkedIn? Do you connect with other photographers? I do. I'm just wondering if everybody's so guarded that, oh, I don't want to.
Yeah, there's
I don't want
photo
Alan on
logo.
I don't want to link with Alan. You know, he might take my job.
Oh yeah.
You know,
I like everybody that the stuff that I'm connected with other people.
yeah, but I
on this group, but
I do that. I have a lot of you know, a lot of photographers that I link with. I like their work, then I connect with them. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean I don't actively do it, but I liked some stuff that Kyle posted this week that was pretty cool. He showed some, back of set kinds of things that were pretty interesting, that are fun to see.
So another LinkedIn question. I've been getting a fair number of ads by email from LinkedIn themselves, offering $650 worth of ads if you spend $650. And I recently took advantage of one of those to market a set of lunch and learns that we've been doing. And interestingly enough, we seem to actually get a fair amount of traffic from that, although not a lot of signups, which was interesting. I'm wondering, is anybody else getting those, and is anybody making use of those? And if so, is it working for you?
I did do that, and I didn't see a real big return on it. But I will mention one thing just popped in my head that has given me a fairly good return is putting my posts in the groups that I'm a member of. So there's all these various industry groups that you can join on LinkedIn. Interior design, construction management, architectural design. There's just hundreds of different interest groups that you can join, and these are all full of potential clients. And so find some of your clients now and see what groups they're connected to, or that they're members of, and then take your posts and just repurpose them and post them in those groups again, and you'll find that you'll get probably more traffic and more awareness for the posts that you do in the groups than you do on the feed. And at least I do anyway. Those are more productive.
I think you also see more like organic reach when you're tagging people and you're tagging companies, and also like resharing other people's work never seems to get the same type of traction. So like if my client posts my images and I reshare that, I see like maybe a handful of likes from it. But if I post the images and tag my client, I'm getting anywhere from like 20 to 50 likes on that. So it's kind of weird just understanding the algorithm and what LinkedIn likes and what they don't like. Even when you like link a blog post and share that, if I'm tagging people in that, I feel like I'm not getting the same amount of reach. It might just be people aren't interested in the content.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that that the copy that you write that goes in your post has a lot to do with the reach that it achieves, and the number of reposts that you might get. And as much as I hate AI, there might be some advantages to at least just just as a what if, kind of seeing what AI may generate for the copy that in your post, because there are some things that might beef it up just a little bit. And I find that if you put it like a one sentence post, you're probably not going to get the reach that something that's 3 or 4 sentences or 2 paragraphs or something like that, even though somebody may not read that far down, it's going to give more for LinkedIn to work with, and it will reach more people as a result of that. So for me doing that, I went from, I mean, sometimes it seems a little cumbersome, but I went from, say, having maybe on a post that in a week's time had 300 views to having 3,000 views. So that's the difference.
You know what else I did, Alan, is we primarily do architectural photography here, but we do have a studio. And I posted some portraits, and man, I mean, I can't believe the response I got from people. Didn't know we did any headshots or portrait work, or personal branding type of photography, lifestyle. So we got a lot of a lot of interest in that. So I mean, that's something else you can do.
Couple of questions. I'm sorry, I'm a newbie on LinkedIn, but Norman, who would you tag when you're posting those pictures on LinkedIn of the portraits? How do you get to the
Yeah,
people you
so
want?
it was an interior designer, so I tagged the interior designer, her company. And
Okay,
then I just did, hashtags, headshot photography, portrait photography, lifestyle photography, personal branding, that type of thing. That first post that I put up of Marietta, I put 3 or 4 pictures on there. I had people I never heard of contacting us saying, "Oh, great work, great shots. How did you light that?" So on and so forth. It generated a lot of interest, got a lot of traffic. I think that one post we had 2,800 looks like the first day. So it was really something. And we don't actively seek that type of work. So it's
Right.
a nice fill work sometimes if you get any, with the clients, it's nice supplemental work.
Another question from a LinkedIn newbie. I know there's different levels of what you can subscribe to, and I think one of them's free, and then there's another level where I don't know what is recommended and what do you find is necessary to get the engagement you're looking for in terms of your subscription to
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
You can get things going with the free subscription. The paid subscription gives you just more features. You can see who's looking at you. You have more connections. You can do internal advertising and posting like that. So you get more features uh, with having the professional version, and that's what I recommend. But you can get things started with the free version.
Yeah, the premium version is gonna push you up in searches too. They don't tell you that, but it does. um, if you have that premium subscription, but you can also there are some promotional codes that if you were to shop around online, you'd find a promotional code for a discount on that premium subscription. So, but I'd recommend the premium subscription if you want to get serious about it. Also, one point about connecting with people is I'd recommend that you have a really well composed message that you include with your connection request. Not just click on, just click the connect box or something, just a random anonymous request to connect with somebody, but, purposefully connect with people that actually might want to do business with you and tell them that you want to do business with them and why, kind of thing. And, I include a link to my website in my request and also, the fact that I know who they are or at least I know their company and something about them. So I compose a message that, is at least personal and not something that's anonymous or something that I could send to anybody. And in that way, the people I am connected to, I think, pay attention when I post something.
So that would be like an individual request that you're reaching out to a specific person, and
Yeah,
then
when you starting to build connections on LinkedIn, and that's part of the network that you start to build when you get on there is you make these connections with people who you already know and who are clients, but then there are those that you would like to be connected with. And I think you have to have, you have to be honest and have some, legitimate reason to connect with them. Otherwise, at least for me, it just comes across as spam, because I get people wanting to connect with me, all day, every day to, you know, be a financial advisor or be a business coach or all these kinds of things. And I never connect with any of them. So,
Yeah, one thing that I've actually done along those same lines is LinkedIn seems to be about every 6 months or so, for me at least. It may be different for others. They do a promo where you get a free month of LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And Sales Navigator is sort of it's a bolt-on thing that sort of goes on the side of LinkedIn. So it's got its own user interface and whatnot. And I found that that's probably one of the best ways finding out, for instance, who the marketing director is at large firms and whatnot, because those folks change over periodically. And then there's another extension, depending on what you're using for a CRM system, but you can generally pull those in and then call them. And we've about every year or so, we run that as a call campaign, and that's actually worked fairly well.
yeah, I'll mention another thing. There's a plugin that you can use on Chrome, on the Chrome browser, called Lead Leaper, and it's got a little frog as the icon for the app, and it's a Chrome extension plugin, and it's basically an email scraper. And LinkedIn doesn't like those, but this one they seem to tolerate. And the advantage of it is when you're trying to build an email list, and you've gone through and you've done a search on LinkedIn, and let's say it's for, you've filtered down, and it's marketing directors at architectural firms of 100 or more employees in, the Midwest, and it's going to give you a bunch of returns. It gives you 300 different individuals, and in order to put together an email campaign, then you have this little icon up in your browser that you click on, and it will roll through those, and Lead Leaper will then pull the email addresses if they're available and create a list for you. And we use that on a fairly regular basis when we're trying to put together a targeted email campaign. It just saves tons of time, and it will, it is an email scraper, but unlike, going on some site like Fiverr or whatever and getting somebody from Bangladesh to scrape email addresses that may or may not be valid and may or may not be people that actually do work that you want. This is actually people that you found, and it will be valid email addresses. And so, and I think it's $29 a month if you sign up for it, and you can cancel at any time. And that's been really valuable for us. And not only just to find potential clients, but to, get in touch with people that we need to when we're on a project, and geez, what's their email address? I can't find them. And so Lead Leaper will find that for us. But that's been a really good tool for us to add on there. Not that I, recommend mass email blasts or anything like that. That does help.
A different topic than the LinkedIn. I'm an architect, so I get all kinds of mailings about the architecture industry and all that sort of thing. I say I'm an architect. I'm a retired architect. But anyway, the last thing I just got this week was how architecture fees across the country, in all areas of the country, have gone down quite a bit in the last 14 months. Now, that could be good or bad. It could be if your fees are really down, people want to market and get more photography of their projects, or it could be that they're hurting for money and they're going to spend a little less. That'll be different in every market and to every one of us, but I just want to let you know that at least they're going to potentially give the argument that, boy, their fees are down right now, and Of course, that doesn't apply to everybody, but that's the trend right now. 14 months of fees going way down for architects.
I had that conversation about that with an architect recently, Glenn, and their take on that was that it's the small shops and independents that are taking the biggest hit on that.
What I use is this Hunter. So there's a couple of companies that will basically allow you to do some research on emails. And so this thing has 4 ways that you can do that. They have a new way, which just you say, this is the industry I'm interested in. This is where I would like to find the companies in terms of location. And it will start to spit out massive amounts of information. I don't use that. I haven't used it yet. It's brand new. But you can take the URL for a company and you plug it in, and it will find as many email addresses as it can. Now, sometimes it does a great job and you end up with hundreds of email addresses, and it often has the name attached to it. Sometimes it has a department attached to it. Sometimes it has a phone number attached to it. So that's kind of my first go at it. Then after that, if it's not satisfactory, and it's not always satisfactory, it has 2 other things, which is what they call a finder and a verifier. So the verifier is just what it sounds like. You put in what you think is an email, and it'll tell you whether it's actually good or not. And it gives you kind of percentages. It's pretty much foolproof, not entirely. It's told me a few times that things worked when they didn't work, and a few things that said, well, this is not real, but it turned out to be fine. But the other thing it does is Finder is you put in, if it's joeblow.com, and then you put in Barry Schwartz at joeblow.com, it'll tell you what emails come out of that, whether it's B Schwartz or Schwartz B or whatever. So I have found that as a first pass, typically after I've gone to LinkedIn also. LinkedIn is an amazing resource. It's also not always accurate. There are sometimes people listed at companies who are no longer there, and there are some companies that aren't. But typically, at least in the C-suite, for marketing people and business development, those tend to be kept up a little better because those people are keeping it up better, not the companies themselves. And usually they don't list their contact, but sometimes they do. But LinkedIn is really, really good. At least it kind of gets you started. So sometimes you can find the name. Some architecture firms don't list who anybody is, right? They don't even give you a name. You don't know how this company even started. So you can go to LinkedIn, find at least one name, go back to Hunter, plug it in. That's a way to do it. I mean, there's a lot of back and forth that happens. I also have to say, sometimes I don't use Google, I use DuckDuckGo. I will just put in, Bob Smith, put in the name email, their name, the company name, email. And sometimes it pops up. It pops up because they have done a submission to a city or a county or a state. They've answered an RFP, and it's there. Sometimes it kind of steers me to Architizer or one of these weird, directories, and it's there. So there are, those are some of the things that I use. I've been in a big marketing binge lately, so it's all fresh in my mind.
That's great. Thank you. What's the URL for Hunter? Is it
I think it's just Hunter here. Let me see.
Hunter.com?
Yeah, hunter.io. So you can try it for free, I think, for a bit. The weird thing when you first go there, I'm doing it right now. It says go to Hunter right at the top. So I think the first page is kind of the advertising for what we are, but then I hit go to Hunter and then I start.
I have a Chrome plugin, and that's mostly how I use it. Because when you visit a company's website, you can just click on that plugin, it drops it down, and it gives you all the emails that it can find on that website. And so you can through. They have like a Chrome plugin, and so
Hunter does?
Hunter does. Yeah, that's
Oh, I
the
didn't
way
know
I've
that.
used it. So when I go to like a client's website, I can, scroll through the about section, just find out. Most of the time they don't have emails. They might click it to like connect with them on LinkedIn or something. Uh, but yeah, I'll click on that and it'll drop down and it'll give me at least the email format. A lot of times it's like first letter of the first name and then their last name or their first name dot last name. And so then if you know that, you can at least try it. And like you were saying before, then maybe verify it and see if it comes up as an actual email.
Worst case, it just bounces. So, you just try and try again. I used to do mass emails where I would put a bunch of people on there all at once, thinking that would be more efficient. Maybe like a version of CCing so they could all see who I wrote. I don't do that anymore because I got so many fails. Plus, it just seemed spammy because if my intro letter is just hi, your name. And then I say, this is to introduce myself to you. And I put in the company name so that it always sounds like a real note and not just something generated from a company that just generates thousands of emails. Like when we get an email that just says hello and no name, I'm always a little suspicious, despite having gotten some gigs off of those.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't use my name for my business. It's a separate name. So a lot of times it'll say hello, first word of your business.
A lot of people say that they use text all the time and they hardly use email anymore. I'm the opposite. I use email all the time and I don't use text very often. Have any of you tried marketing through text?
I think the general idea is that once you get the gig, then text is fine. If I get a text from somebody, I don't know, trying to sell me something, I delete it and I say it's junk, so they get blocked. So I think, but once you're in a relationship, so to speak, sure, why not? Whatever.
One thing I thought of while we were talking too is I find that a lot of companies, and it's probably the case with photographers as well, have not claimed their company page on LinkedIn. So you've probably got, your own personal page on LinkedIn, but if you haven't yet claimed a company page, you want to do that too, so that it does look like you actually have a company. Because I find that even a lot of people I do business with, that have 50 employees or whatever, they don't have a company page on LinkedIn. They just have individual pages for the people that work there, which seems like they've missed something. But anyway, I don't do much with my company page other than repeat my posts there, but at least it sits there and does have some information on it, so I recommend that.
I mean, I've seen where I've done a big marketing blast and then suddenly it picks up and I see that people have been looking at my page. So, it's worth having something decent there. I just redid mine because anyway, for all kinds of reasons, but it's like having a clean Instagram or a clean Facebook. People that don't know you, and you're contacting them, they're going to check you out.
Question for you. You mentioned earlier hashtag generator, and could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, yeah, there's a number of them around, and I had a few that were recommended to me. There's one called Best Hashtag Generator. Yeah, there's a bunch of them, and they're free, and I would probably consult, a couple of them when you're doing something. It looks for popular hashtags, and so if you put in if I put in something like Las Vegas real estate or something like that, it's going to generate hashtags, the most popular hashtags related to that. Now, some of them are going to be junk and you're not going to want to use them, but you're also going to find, a number of them that are going to be valuable and that will then generate more traffic for you. So it may not be, you may not want to use the hashtags that you think are the best matches for your post. I would recommend you use the ones that are, the most popular matches from one of these generators. And that was something that was recommended to me by a marketing company, because I didn't know anything about that. I was just using ones that I thought were really good matches, and they said, you're missing it. And I was. So when I started doing it that way, then all of a sudden my traffic went up.
Yeah, I was gonna ask because I'm using just ones that I think are good. And I'm not necessarily seeing a difference when I include them or don't include them. I think mostly like the second connections and the people who I'm not directly connected with who are liking the post are seeing it from people that I'm connected with. It's like when somebody, my client or whoever likes it, then all of a sudden it shows up in their feed that so and so liked it, and then they might see it. But I'm not sure that the hashtags I'm using are actually getting me any traffic. So I'm curious on other people's views on that.
Are you talking about using hashtags on like Instagram and things just to get some
This is
attention?
on the bottom of a LinkedIn post, and
Oh, okay.
LinkedIn recommends that you don't use more than 5. I think that's the current recommendation on that.
Yeah, sometimes I do actually use more than 5, but yeah, when you write the body of the text that you're, wanting to describe your post with, right below it, you add the hashtags. In the body of the post, like Alan said, you can highlight and link somebody that that had something to do with the project. They like that because they get informed that, so and so was mentioned in your post, and it adds additional traffic to your post.
I just did a Google search on using hashtag generator, and yeah, there's like 5 or 6 that are coming up. So obviously some of them are better than others. Some of them are directed not towards our industry, but yeah.
But so, yeah, but do what Alan said, and just take the ones that apply, because it's gonna give you a broad range of hashtags with a specific industry. Use the ones that really ring out to you. Those are probably the ones that work best, so.
Chat ABT as well, give it prompts to say what market you want it to look at. Shifter.com, they've got a Facebook page, and they do an SEO package that they were doing a sale on a little while ago. And that was kind of useful, bit of hit and miss. But the use of chat APT, I wasn't really using it before, but you can, if you know what to ask, then it can be really helpful to kind of get you out of the, getting stuck in your own head on what you're going to actually put in your posts. So you can actually put in prompts and say, look, what would be, you can even use it to look at other people's websites and say, what keywords does my competitor at such and such.com use? And it will scan down. If it can find that information, it'll pull all that information back for you. So you can use it to find good hashtags and stuff as well.
So next, thank you on that. That's really good advice. The next question I have is, what are you all doing for SEO? And do you outsource that? Do you do that yourself? Is that something you pay attention to at all?
Oh yeah, massively. Yeah, I mean, probably more so than doing stuff like hashtags and things like that. The algorithm on things like Instagram, for instance, just changes it week in, week out, just however they see fit to push it. I think the next thing is that they're going to start downgrading the importance of hashtags and make more important original posts. So where you see all these people on Instagram that will take your post and they'll put background music on it, and then they'll repost it and they'll get 1 million hits and you've got 12. Well, those people that are reposting your content are going to be hit hard in searching and showing up in people's reels now. But in terms of like website SEO, I mean, that's a real rabbit hole. You got to kind of like, it's not something that you'll get anything out of a 20-minute Zoom call. And unfortunately, I would say your best bet is to find it like an industry specific person that knows their SEO stuff, like that Shifter.com, what she called, I forget the girl's name now. But she did SEO for Disney, Netflix, a whole bunch of other companies, and is now putting it into practice with her own architectural business. So that's probably the best recommended one I could say. It's going to cost you, I don't know, like maybe $100 or something for the course. I didn't find it incredibly useful across the board, but it was good at giving me a kick in the backside to look at the right areas. If you do a search for Shifter.com, either on Instagram or Facebook, you'll find it, and a lot of their stuff is linked out pretty well.
This is not directly applicable to us, but my favorite usage of hashtags and just social media as a marketing tool is from Arts Driver. So Arts Driver is a very successful editorial and advertising photographer. Lots of covers of Vanity Fair, multiple movie. Anyway, but his Instagram is completely brilliant. For one thing, they're long and they're funny, and he hashtags. And he thanks everybody involved in every project, from every single assistant to the studio they rented to the editor or the art director. Everybody gets thanked. And he puts it in a kind of narrative form, but most of the hashtags tend to be at the end. He also does another thing, which is probably something not would not work as well for us. He does behind the scenes and then the final thing. So he'll do a series of 10 pictures of this is the setup. So you can see his lighting setups, which are really great, obviously taken by assistants with an iPhone, doesn't matter. And they're pretty extreme very often, although he has done some shoots with one light and a bare bulb. So he'll do that. And then he shows you the final photos that were used in the magazine. And that's a separate post. So I just put in the chat, I put a direct link to his Instagram. But he's quite brilliant. He's also a very nice man, and he does write these himself. I used to know him a little bit.
Do you guys all hashtag all of the photos that are on your website?
Actually, I do a description of the, I might say interior design photographer, that type of stuff, but I usually do a description of the photo. And I found that when we started adding text to our photos, and we do it, it's so grayscaled, you really can't, you can't really see it. But Google sees it, and it's really increased the traffic to our website.
I'd recommend that, regardless of what your situation is, that you get some good advice about a website from somebody that, that does SEO and website design. And I'm not sure it needs to be, industry specific per se, because I think that those things, those cross industries, those kinds of practices cross industries, and that they're fairly universal. So, I've gotten information and advice and help from people that do SEO for a variety of companies, and it's worked really well for me. There are some, I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but there are some people on the scene right now that they're kind of, I think, taking advantage of the architectural photography industry, and maybe not adding a lot of value, but scooping up some income. And I'm a little, I'm hesitant to say too much, but I would be a little cautious about buying into too much that's going on with some of those situations, without naming names, because I don't think they're adding any value, and I think they're being run by people who are not at the top of the industry. So that being said, those of you who really read between the lines.
Well, those people are all over YouTube too. I mean, they exist for all the emerging and amateur photographers too. And I think I always think of one of the marks of learning to be a professional, or at least continuing to hopefully learn how to be a professional, is to start to recognize when there's value in those YouTubers, for instance, and not. And that includes the other companies like the one you just mentioned.
Well, and and we, I am bombarded constantly, and have been this past year, to try to align the AIAP with some of these, one in specific, and have said absolutely no, oh hell no, and and so that's kind of where I am on that. And if there was any value in it, I would have said yes in a heartbeat, but I just don't see it. So that's kind of where I am in that. But this has a position in the market that I think needs to be maintained, and it's not about selling workshops and online courses and all that kind of crap. But anyway, or equipment for that matter. So speaking of which, if you want to sell equipment, we do have an alternate website for AIP. That's a Facebook page. You can sell any kind of gear you want there. You know, moving on marketing wise, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about contacting people in person and the value in just actually face-to-face marketing yourself and actually showing up at somebody's place and talking to somebody.
Yeah, I had to do that when I moved here. When I left London, I left all my clients. I moved to the US and I'd started literally with no clients. I moved to Nashville and I'd stayed there for 6 months and I ended up leaving just because nobody was biting the bullet on anything like getting jobs finished. It was just a bunch of cranes around town, but nobody was actually wrapping up jobs. But I printed out a portfolio, spent 3 weeks printing out a portfolio, making it look nice. I walked around downtown Nashville with a list of addresses and my iPhone with Google Maps, knocked on the door and asked if they'd take a 10-minute meeting. I got 6 clients in one day that were just like, whoa, we've never had anybody just roll up like this. Well, not for years anyway, but that was how I was told how to do it. I mean, I'm nearly 50 and so back when I was assisting, they were, everybody that I worked with said, you got to get out, you got to get FaceTime, you got to organize meetings with these people. It was pre-email and you didn't even really kind of click on the phone. You had to go around and make a face and put a name to a face to a name,
Well, I think it's such a novel thing now that there's a real strength in making an appointment with somebody and showing up. And even if your portfolio is on an iPad, I mean, I still have my custom lightware case with my 11 by 14 prints with fly sheets. So, and I've got, I've still got the light box that fits in there too, that I can actually put 4x5 transparencies on or 8x10s if they want to see those. And then I can explain what they actually are. But yeah, so that actually, having an appointment with somebody in person, I think is a huge advantage right now, because that people just don't do that. And I think people have the time to do it.
You'd be surprised how many people would take 10 minutes just to sit down, they'll take a 10-minute break or a coffee break and they'll sit down with you just to have a look at a portfolio, just to break up the monotony of their day. As long as they're not like under the thumb or, got anything going on, there's a lot to be said for just rolling up to someone that you'd like to work with, because it shows that you're making the effort,
Absolutely agree. And so I think that's huge. And I think there are some things that we've kind of forgotten about that go along with that. And one of them is, having a business card to leave with them, that kind of thing. Maybe you make the appointment ahead of time. There are these, there are these Ann Landers kinds of things that we used to do that we still, people are not going to understand that reference either. I understand that now, but there are those little things that I think that are important to do, and they're going to make a huge impact. And one of them is, you've got a nicely designed business card that you're going to hand to them. And another thing is after it's all over with, send a thank you note. And if you send a thank you note that's maybe got your logo on it and just handwritten with a nice pen, thanks for taking the time to meet with me. It was nice to learn more about your company, and it would be a pleasure to work with you in the future. They're going to be knocked over for the whole day after getting a card like that, because nobody is going to send them something like that these days. And that was the norm, 40 years ago or 30 or whatever, but it's not now. And that's going to set you apart in such a huge way from everybody else. And granted, we're probably all going to be going in and meeting with the 30-something marketing director who doesn't have any frame of reference for an in-person portfolio meeting or a thank you card for that matter, but it will make a big impact.
Years ago, I did a lot of interviews with photographers. And one of the people that I interviewed, Andrew Eccles, was a very successful advertising photographer. At that point, he was in his early 50s or something. And he told me that he was booked 18 months in advance but he was worried about his future career. And I wanted to say, you know, I'd be happy to be booked 18 days in advance. And he, so what he had done was, he lived in New York, lived in the city. He was contacting photo editors and art buyers once a week and going and dragging his portfolio around. And he said, you know, he had a rep, right? He said, but I haven't done this in 30 years. But he said, he looked around, he was looking backwards over his shoulder, and he saw all these great young photographers. And he said, they're going to eat my lunch. So I have to be present in front of these people who might not know who I am, you know, because as you get one of the, you know, as you get successful, whatever that means, you're working hopefully for fewer and fewer people. Hopefully not one person, but one company. You're working for fewer and fewer companies, and you're not out there ranging around like you used to. So that's what he was doing. I was really startled, but I thought, wow, this is a guy who's really, he is thinking ahead, you know?
Well, this has been a good discussion, and there's a lot of good information that's come out of here. I think we'll wrap up here as far as our recording goes, and I really appreciate all your input. This has been very valuable, and we'll get this up. And just to give you an update on the mentoring podcast that we did last month, we've delayed on that because there's been a little bit of a lag in implementing things the way we wanted to on the member portal. When you log into the members area on the AIAP website. So watch for that this week, and we'll give you a notice on that. But thanks to everybody. We're going to leave this window open after this recording ends, but I just want to tell you I appreciate everybody's input, and we'll look forward to a meeting next week, but or next month rather, but hang on here for a little more conversation. Thanks.
This has been another episode of A Photographer's Life. If you've enjoyed this program, please let us know by liking this episode and subscribing to this channel. A Photographer's Life is brought to you by the Association of Independent Architectural Photographers. This episode is copyrighted and may not be used in full or in part without the written permission of the AIAP. Please join us again soon for another inside look at the world of professional architectural photography.